For 4 years, Grace Holloway's neighbor fixed everything that broke in her house. Her leaking faucet, her flickering porch light, her stuck garage door. He never asked for money, never asked for anything really, except to be let inside, alone, for 20 minutes at a time, while she was at work. Grace thought she was lucky, the kind of neighbor everyone wishes they had. Then one Tuesday, her smart home app sent her a notification she wasn't expecting. A motion alert from a camera she had never installed. Here's what happened. Grace was 31, living alone in a quiet subdivision outside Charlotte, North Carolina. She'd moved in 2 years earlier, right after her divorce, in a house that seemed to have something wrong with it every other week. That's when she met Walter Grumman, 63 years old, retired contractor, lived 3 houses down, widower according to the neighborhood. Walter noticed her struggling with a broken mailbox her first week and fixed it without being asked. From there, it became routine. A text message, a small fix, never any charge. Grace gave him a spare key 8 months in. It seemed easier than being home every time he needed access, and Walter had never given her any reason not to trust him. The notification came on a Tuesday afternoon, while Grace was at her office downtown. Motion detected, hallway camera. Grace stared at it, confused. She didn't own a hallway camera. Her smart home system only covered the front door and the garage. She almost dismissed it as a glitch, but something made her tap the notification anyway. The app opened to a live feed she'd never seen before. Grainy, angled from somewhere near her bedroom ceiling. And in the frame, clearly visible, was Walter, standing perfectly still in her hallway, looking directly up at the camera. He wasn't fixing anything. He was just standing there. Grace's hands were shaking as she called the police non-emergency line, unsure how to even explain what she was seeing. By the time an officer arrived at her home 20 minutes later, Walter was gone, and so, apparently, was the camera. There was no device mounted anywhere in her hallway. No wiring, no mounting bracket, nothing. The responding officer suggested it might have been a system malfunction, or possibly a prank from a connected smart device account. But Grace pulled up her account settings that night and found something the officer hadn't checked. Her smart home account had a second linked device, one she had never added, registered under an email address that was almost, but not quite, identical to her own. One letter different. Easy to miss unless you were looking closely. Grace contacted the smart home company directly, and after 2 days of escalating requests, finally reached someone in their security division who could actually trace the linked account. It had been created 14 months earlier, nearly a year before that Tuesday notification, using a name Grace didn't recognize at first, Walter G. Reyes. It took her almost a full minute to realize what she was looking at. Walter Grumman. Reyes had been his wife's maiden name, information Grace only knew because he'd mentioned it once, in passing, months earlier. The account included access logs, 14 months of them, motion alerts, live feed access, timestamps that lined up, almost exactly, with every single time Walter had ever asked to come inside her house alone. He hadn't just been fixing things. He'd been watching her the entire time, and using each repair as an opportunity to expand what he could see. Detective Priya Anand, assigned to the case, pulled Walter's background and found something the initial neighborhood checks had missed entirely. Walter Grumman had lived in 3 other states over the past 11 years, each time relocating within months of a formal complaint filed against him by a female neighbor. none of which had ever escalated into a criminal charge due to insufficient evidence at the time. In each case, the pattern was identical: a newly divorced or single woman, small, unsolicited repairs, a gradual request for access, and then, eventually, a complaint about unexplained surveillance devices that were never found in time to be recovered as evidence. Walter had learned, across 3 states, exactly how long he could maintain access before someone noticed, and exactly how quickly to remove any physical evidence the moment suspicion arose. Grace's case was the first time a digital account trail had survived long enough to actually connect the pattern. A search warrant executed on Walter's home 3 days later uncovered a storage room in his basement containing dozens of miniature cameras, still in their original packaging, alongside a detailed notebook cataloging previous projects, a chilling term he'd apparently used to refer to each woman he had surveilled across 4 different addresses. Grace's name appeared on 11 separate pages, dating back to the week she moved in. Walter was arrested without incident, seemingly unbothered, according to Detective Anand's report, as though he had, on some level, expected this outcome eventually. When questioned, he offered only one statement before requesting an attorney. "I never touched any of them. I only ever wanted to make sure they were safe." Walter was charged with stalking, unlawful surveillance, and unauthorized computer access across 2 states, with additional charges pending in the other jurisdictions where his pattern was later confirmed. He was sentenced to 11 years. Grace moved within 2 months. She says she still checks every device in every home she visits, friends, family, even hotel rooms, for anything that shouldn't be there. She's stated in the only interview she's given that the hardest part wasn't fear of Walter specifically. It was realizing that kindness, freely given and never questioned, had been the exact tool he used to gain everything he needed. This has been The Dark Truth Files. This story is fiction, but the pattern it reflects is real. Trust built slowly, through small favors and quiet access, can be one of the hardest warning signs to recognize, because it doesn't look like danger, it looks like kindness. Stay aware, check your smart devices regularly, and remember, the people who never ask for anything are sometimes the ones asking for everything.